You are listening to the Motherhood Unstressed podcast, and I'm your host, Liz Carlisle. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad that you're here, as always, and I'm so excited to share this week's episode with you. This actually took place in person at Dave Asprey's 7th Annual Biohacking Conference. I was lucky enough to be able to meet and interview Wade Lightheart, who is a 3-time Canadian bodybuilding champion. He's a nutritionist and an expert on fixing digestion. He's also the co-founder and president at BiOptimizers, a digestive and health optimization company, and he also serves as an advisor to the American Anti-Cancer Institute. Now, in this interview, we talk about a lot of things, as we tend to do on this show, but I think it boils down to understanding the very core fundamentals of health and how that really begins in the cell. And beyond that, how important the mental is to health and wellness as well. So if you're not already motivated, this episode is going to help you get there. So if you enjoy it, please share it with a friend, and please take a few moments to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks, and enjoy this episode with Wade Lightheart. Well, Wade, thank you for being on the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, so why don't you give our audience a primer about you and BiOptimizers? How did this company come to be?
Yeah, well, my business partner and I, co-founder Matt Galan, we started, we were both personal trainers, high-performance guys. He was an MMA instructor. I was in bodybuilding environment. And so both of us were seeking out ways to kind of overcome our physical limitations, genetic limitations, optimizations. We were like in that community, we're original biohackers. We're doing everything to overcome our evolutionary tendencies. Building muscle, getting super low body fat levels, having extraordinary levels of energy in order to continue to push yourself to higher levels as a professional athlete. And then eventually that led into an education company, and we've always stayed very close to our roots, high in education. And in 2005, we produced our first enzymatic supplement to address the issues of digestion, absorption, and utilization. And then we went into probiotics and about 5 years ago, we rebranded as BiOptimizers because we had found we had a huge following from holistic health clinics to people suffering from all sorts of conditions that we were able to assist with. And the company's been on a rocket ride ever since and has been now known as one of the premier companies dealing with digestive health, nervous system optimization, and now into cognitive enhancement.
So it seems like you started really as a way to help yourself, and then through that work, through the education, the research, you scaled that. Was it difficult to make that leap from just trying to figure out your own body?
No. I think it was. Well, what happened is I hit a high level performance as a top-level drug-free bodybuilder. I was coaching the who's who in Vancouver, Canada, and Matt's like, hey, we could take this to a bigger audience because you're doing a bunch of things that are really revolutionary. I had a holistic health clinic as well. So I was always experimenting, testing all these new things. And then my background in high performance, getting people into single-digit body fat and high levels of muscle mass, you really have to get good at observation, dietary analysis, nervous system analysis, personality types, these type of things. And so it was a natural extension. And then, we got to coach thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And with that, we were able to develop data sets that would be able to influence our decision making and what technology might be right in the right order sequence. And I built a whole course that I give away on the site called the Awesome Health Course, which is a way to systematically address your own needs. Because I think what happens is people get really excited about the latest, greatest, newest, and shiniest without dealing with fundamentals. And almost no one talks fundamentals anymore. And so we start with fundamentals and then we get into nuances as we move along.
And what are those fundamentals? Because I think the woman listening to this is like, yeah, that sounds good, but what are they?
Sure, great question. So, and I'm going to share how I came to these conclusions, because there's so much confusion when you look at, should I do this, that, should I be a keto or a paleo, should I be a vegetarian, should I go raw food, should I be detoxing? Like, these are the questions that we're constantly bombarded with conflicting information. So I looked at it from, if the one ubiquitous piece of the human body is the cell. Now, I certainly don't want to suggest that we're just a bunch of conglomerates of cells. I think there's a lot deeper process to it. But when we're talking about biological health, We can look at if I can make all the cells in the body function at what they're supposed to do, the chances of me experiencing a high level of health and performance is very high. So what are the things that make a cell work? Well, most people that you get started in this, they're starting with diets. Well, how long can you go without food? You can go months. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. No one wants to do it. But you can go months without food. How long can you go without water? Maybe a week. How long can you go without air? Well, if you're looking from first principles, air obviously is superior to water. Water is superior to food. Now, if I lock someone into someone who gets sick or goes through an injury, you put them in a hospital bed and you don't move them. Every single and they're strapped to a bed or they're infirm for a period of time. Every single biometric marker goes down during that time. Enzymatic function, brain function, nervous system function, muscle mass function, peristaltic, everything diminishes when you go into a hospital setting situation. That's acute care, but that's fine. So obviously movement is superior to diet. So air, water, and exercise, the first three aspects of the awesome philosophy which I teach, are non-negotiables. If you haven't done breath work, you're not concentrating on consistent hydration, and you haven't found an exercise regime that is suitable to you, because we didn't have to worry about exercises until rapid technological innovation. Life was an exercise, but we've been so good at leveraging efficiency mechanisms which the human body operates on and extending those to technology that now technology has become the major obstacle to our general health. And it's a double-edged sword, because I love technology, but we have to recognize that efficiency of energy expenditure makes us lazy. And so we have to overcome those things. And we can use that using technology so you can get much more effective and more efficient results quicker. But let's put things in perspective. And then we get into sunlight, which is the piece, the bridge between where I get into kind of the biohacking stuff and what I talked about, air, water, and exercise. I look at food consumption as condensed light. I'm more of a physicist than a biologist, and that is that we are just mostly empty space. So essentially, we're compressed waves, and anybody can say, "Hey, I walk into a room and it's a good vibe, it's a bad vibe. I feel energy. You're attracted to people. You're repelled by people. All these sort of things, which are very common. It's built right into our language, our communication, how we talk to our friends or our spouses or our kids or whatever. We pick up these things." But that's not taught in our education system to an extensive degree. And I'm encouraging people to explore that aspect of the human condition: consciousness, vibration, frequency, energy. And that also goes in along with your food. So, for example, the research is well known that even just giving thanks and gratitude for whatever food that you're eating makes it more supportive of the body's health. Well, why aren't we talking about this?
Yeah.
Like why? So there is a scientific validated way of why maybe prayer and gratitude and thanks can influence our health. Then we get into the nuts and bolts, which everybody wants to talk to me about. Okay, how do we make the cells work better? So we go air, water, exercise, sunlight, looking at our life through electronic vibration frequency, right? And then we get into optimizers, and that's why our company is BiOptimizers. Enzymes and probiotics, the only thing that does work in the body. Essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, essential minerals, essential vitamins, and herbs. And all of the minerals and all of the vitamins are essential, even the trace ones. They're not in the body for randomness. They're there for a specific reason. And so you want those in the optimal quantities and qualities so that the body works like a symphony. Everything. You have the cellos with the drums, with the strings, with the horns in the right sequence, and it's a cascade, a symphony of everything that works. And then we get into mental beliefs and attitude. Probably could put that first, but it would just screw up the acronym. Mental beliefs and attitude is, if you have a great attitude, you can achieve almost anything. If you have a poor attitude, it's very hard to get anywhere. So people need to examine what they believe is true. And because we all come from environments that have advantages and disadvantages. And can you find the advantages within your disadvantages? Can the obstacles be invitations to your greater self? And if you look at the history of almost anyone who's achieved anything, they had debilitating obstacles that they didn't choose to be a victim about. They accepted the inherent consequences of the human condition, which it's rough. There's a lot of bad things that happen to people. But rather than be defined and limited by them, you take those things as the impetus to find the greatness within yourself. And then finally, well, how do you get there quickly? Education, testing, and coaching, the last part of the awesome formula. Education is to learn from within. Educe is the root word for educe. And how do you learn from within? You run a test and you see what the parents, did I feel good after I eat this? I did this biohacking device. What was the effect, right? And I did this walking program and I couldn't walk a mile, but now I can walk 5 after 6 weeks without breathing hard. So you can do any exorbitant test, to the most sophisticated to the most mundane. But that's how we learn about the care of the human body. Now, if you want to accelerate that journey, you hire yourself a coach. That's why I say it's et cetera on that end. Because a coach is someone who has guided people through thousands of potential tests, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands if you go over the coast of a lot of people. Well, they're going to be able to give you a roadmap of best practices very quickly and help you identify aspects of the limiting beliefs that are holding you back from discovering this super potential inside you. So I give that course away. It's 12 weeks, 84 videos, 5 to 15 minutes, where I've taken the composition of 30 years in the industry and said, hey, here's where I learned this, here's where I learned this, and it's in sequence. So maybe someone knows it, they can skip past it, or maybe there's a particular thing where people are at that they haven't addressed, they can go into it, or they can do the whole course.
I mean, what do you say to people who want to optimize themselves, but then these excuses keep coming up, especially mothers, like, I don't have enough time, I've got a lot on my plate, I just don't have it in me, I don't have the energy. Where does your work fill that void?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what has to happen is everybody has 24 hours in a day. And moms today, I think, are under an extraordinary amount of unfair social pressure. And I'm going to expand why that is. I have a lot of empathy. I was lucky. I had a stay-at-home mom and my dad in kind of a traditional environment. And it was really great for my development and health. And my mom was criticized a lot because she was part of the 60s where, for the first time in biological history on this planet, women got to be able to control the birth cycle. Okay, I don't think people have recognized the cascade of opportunities and consequences of that. And I'm not making a judgment about it, but no species on this planet in billions of years has the females been able to control the reproductive cycle. So guess what? Now they have options, which are career options and lifestyle options, that they didn't have before, cultural changes. You change the breeding pattern and interaction pattern of a species, you change the species. So we're basically 3 generations into this opening of opportunities for women with traditional and biological tendencies that are creating inner conflict within both men and women. But it's particularly focused on women because women bear children. So everybody has a mom. Everybody we don't get more people without mothers. And now the mother says, well, being a mom, I got to be a sex symbol, and I got to be a career woman, and I got to be super mom, and I got to be. And so what happens is the overwhelming variance of pressures creates a conflict within the priorities of their life. And those range from economic to dietary to social. And we haven't figured out how to adapt to those changes. And for women who are sitting there struggling with those decisions, I feel that, I hear that, I understand that. And what that individual woman needs to do is she needs to sit down with her partner, if she has one, and she needs to sit down with her kids or whatever it is, and she has to be very clear about the priorities in her life, where she's going to put her energy and where she's not. and to hell with the external pressures and influences, because those things will absolutely lead you to an impossible situation. It is almost impossible to be good at all those things. And the people who you read about who do that, maybe in the cover of Oprah or on, one of the TV shows where, the lady gets on there and she's on the NBC News and she's got 3 kids and a husband and she's got a badass body. Well, she's got a whole team that's working with her to offload all of these things. That's outside of maybe most women's capabilities at the moment. So start where you're at. Pick the things that are working, drop the things that aren't, and just keep moving through the priorities. And I always say, set a 10-year goal, set a 3-year goal, set a 1-year goal, and then a 90-day goal. And pick the things that you can do within that 90 days and say, okay, let's just get this piece worked out, and we'll go to the next one we'll see how we did in 90 days, and we'll reassess. And can I get to that year mark? And can I get to that 3-year mark? And can I get to the 10-year mark? And the 10-year, you want to be outrageous, right? I want to be, let's say you want to be a mother of 3 kids. I want to have a banging body. I want to have a great career, right? And I want to feel confident in myself, and I want to achieve this educational component. Okay. Well, you can't maybe do that in 90 days, but you can do that in 10 years. So are you working backwards from that ultimate expression and giving yourself, and then working on first principles again? What do I need to do in the 90 days? Maybe it's get my diet right. Maybe it's get into a regular exercise program. Maybe it's just hydration. Or maybe I need to just go right to a breathwork practice that I can calm down the anxiety of myself so I can think from a clear position as opposed from a position of reactivity. So we want to get proactive, not reactive. And I think for women, it's a very tough game, but I think we are getting examples, and we need to encourage and amplify those voices.
Well, and that's why I'm so glad that you're here on the show doing that. I mean, just even having the conversation, I think it puts a bug in the woman's ears so that she knows that she is valuable and that she should be making herself a priority, and that's actually good for the entire family, It
really is. And also, this is where you've got to get... you got to have an open and clear conversation with your partner. And most guys are more than willing to participate and help out if they know what to do.
Yeah.
Do not underestimate guys' ignorance. So oftentimes guys will not want to say anything because they feel helpless or not confident. And if their partner, if they have an open communication and they can work, again, maybe you want to be here with your partner in 10 years or 3 years or 1 year, or like, what can you get worked on in the 90 days and build those feedback loops where there's positive reinforcement for both partners so that they see that they're working as partners, not as 2 people inhabiting the same house.
Oh, I love that. So, to wrap things up, what do you want the listener who's tuning into this, who understands cognitively what you're saying? She has then, she's thinking of her 90-day plan. What do you want her to remember from this talk, from the work that you do, from your company, from the person that you are, everything that you've learned? What do you want her to take away?
Number 1, you're worth the effort, okay? And no one else can determine your worth except you. That's number 1. Number 2 is progress over perfection. Don't worry about getting to the 10-year vision of yourself. Get on the road, see that vision, and work backwards until you can get definable effort and a daily progress. And number 3, find your support system. You need to have someone that you can pick up the phone or send a text to or get that interaction on the day that you don't feel like it, the day that you're going to default to the old position, the day that you're overwhelmed, to get that 5-minute interaction, that little feedback loop to say, hey, you know what, let's take the next step. And of course, if anybody wants to try our products or our courses, they can just, the Awesome Health course is a great way to start. It's free. 5-minute videos. I'll help coach you. I'll show you these little things to give you a little boost for 5 minutes. You can watch on the phone when you're at the kids with gymnastics or soccer. And you know what? Get that next kick. Get that next kick and keep making that progress, and be surprised what you can do.
And where can our listener find out more about you and BiOptimizers and get the course?
Yeah, BiOptimizers.com. It's called the Awesome Health course. We have an app. It comes right in on the app. We have an array of digestive health products, nervous system optimizers, and brain stuff. But more importantly, you want to get the course and start there. It's free, it's easy, it's concise, and it's based on thousands and thousands of clients that we've coached. First principles, simple, easy, doesn't cost anything, and it's effective.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Wade, and thank you for the work that you're doing in the world, truly.
You have been listening to the Motherhood Unstressed podcast. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast.